Hi, I'm Tyler, and welcome to another episode of my Christian Music Week reviews. Each week I take 5 releases, albums, EPs, or singles, and after having listened to them all week, I come back here and I review them. I share what I think about them. So without further ado, let's get to this week's first release, Kim Walker-Smith's new single, Worth the Fight. Kim Walker-Smith's new single, Worth the Fight. Let's talk about it. So, sound-wise, it has piano, keyboard, synthesizer, bass, and drum. And as for the lyrics here, it calls us to fight for a future that'll have us as one nation under God, to take this nation back for God. Up next, Jason Gray's EP Reorder. Jason Gray's new EP Reorder, the final EP in his Order, Disorder, Reorder series. Let's talk about it. So overall here, oh, by the way, I reviewed the first two EPs, Order and Disorder, on this channel too, so you can go and check those out. But anyhow, let's talk about Reorder here. So overall, definitely has a pop feel to it, stylistically, I would say. Acoustic guitar, though, at some points, though, definitely acoustic influence at some points for sure as well. And as for the lyrics here, so let's review what we talked about in the first couple EPs. So on Order, talks about resting in what God is doing and shaping us, and also being in wonder of his love. The second EP, Disorder, kind of a little bit more of a questioning type EP, I would say. Kind of talks about honestly bringing our doubts and questions to God. And now we come to Reorder, which kind of is a little bit brighter than the last EP was. Reorder talks about God using the hard times to make us who we are. And as for whether it's before or after the hard times, I would say, in the midst of the hard times, it seems like a little bit of a in the midst of the hard times, but also does have that other side feel to it as well. One song lyrically that I really liked in particular is called, and connected with in particular, is Bring It All. It talks about how even though you may not choose the broken parts of you, the parts of you that you may try to fix, God will use it if you just let him have it. Up next, Josh Baldwin's new album, Evidence. Josh Baldwin's new album, Evidence. Let's talk about it. So, stylistically here, well, after all, since he is from Bethel, it is no surprise that there is definitely a worship element here, but there's also definitely a couple other elements going on here, a country and folk element for sure as well. One song in particular that I thought was kind of interesting stylistically was his cover of Hillsong Young and Free's Best Friends, which he took kind of a country approach to it, which it still sounded good, but overall I think Hillsong Young and Free's original, more pop-based version was kind of backed the song a little better since it was speaking to a younger audience lyrically. But that's just my take on it. Not saying it was bad, it's good, but just saying that I think Hillsong Young and Free's way of communicating the message was a little more fitting, considering the context. But anyhow, let's dive into the lyrics here. So as for the lyrics here, talks about God being our loving and saving King, and also talks about how he's greater than any fear that we face. Up next, Dillon Chase's new album, Grounded. Dillon Chase's new album, Grounded. Let's talk about it. So overall, a lot of hard-hitting hip-hop songs on here, but also there's a few lighter moments, too. Some piano and violin as well. Other than the start of the opening track, pretty good album here overall. Just didn't really care for the way how his rapping sounded on the start of the first track. But even that first track I got into as the song went on here. And as for the lyrics, talks about Jesus setting him free from his past, and also a couple of the songs talk about him wanting to prioritize his family over being on the road. Up next, our last release for today, Arie Camp's new single. Before I dive into my thoughts on Arie Camp and Alena Pitt's new single, What We Need, let me just say a couple things. Number one, this came as a request from my mom, so thank you, Mom. And number two, Arie, as her last name suggests, is Jeremy Camp's daughter. Look, I have Jeremy Camp t-shirt on here. And now let's dive into my thoughts on this song. Now that we took care of that. So stylistically here has piano, synthesizer, bass, drum, and violin here. And as for the lyrics here, love the lyrics to this song. Talks about how we need to show love and peace towards one another, remembering that we are all created by God, and we are all in need of God's love. Well, that's it for this week. Come back next week for 5 more releases. If you like what you saw in this video, please subscribe. Also, if you have any thoughts on the releases that I reviewed today, let me know that in the comments below. Also, if you have anything that came out today that you want me to review in next week's video, let me know that in the comments below too. Well, I'll go now. See you next week. Bye.